What if the version of you that showed up every day isn't the real you at all, but the quietest, safest version of you? How often do we hide behind safe routines instead of chasing the life we're truly meant to live? In this episode, you will learn how the secret life of Walter Mitty teaches us that realizing your potential in the real world is the first steps to becoming your true self. Welcome to the Fandom Portals podcast, the podcast that explores fandoms and films to help us learn and grow. I'm Aaron, a teacher and a lifelong film fan, and each week on the podcast, we explore the stories that we love to learn more about ourselves and the world that shapes us. Today, I'm joined by Brash.
Hello, everybody. I am Brash. I am me. We are he.
And today, we are doing The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Brash, what's this one about?
This one is about Walter Mitty, a mild-mannered photograph. What would you call it? A producer or the
I would say producer.
producer for Life magazine, who is being taken over by the corrupt business corporation, and everything is going online. So everyone is losing their jobs, and as a last-ditch effort to sort of his last hurrah, he sets on an adventure, which he never does because he's very quiet, in search of the missing photograph that was sent to him by a famous photographer. And this sets him out on a journey of self-discovery.
Absolutely. And in this episode, we are going to be starting our multi-episode themed arc, which is all about becoming your true self. And we're going to be diving into stories about breaking free from expectations, from silence and smallness, and stepping into the people that we're always meant to be. So this is film number 1 of our journey into becoming your true self. And we're going to explore what happens when you finally realize your potential in the real world. Brash, let's get into, first of all, what you thought of the film when you first watched it. Because I've watched this a few times, and my feelings about it has evolved over time. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I think when I first watched it, I was a lot younger. And so I thought it was a fun movie. And it was good, it was funny, it was fun. But yeah, not much more than that. Watching it now, older, with a bit more life under my belt, I think it hits a little bit harder. It sort of, I don't know, it sort of made me feel bad. not in a bad way, but like I look back and I'm like, there's so many things I wish I had have stepped out of my comfort zone and did, or some things that I wish I'd have been a bit more aggressive about, or more just spontaneous about. Not I wasn't that spontaneous when I was in my younger life, but it wasn't for anything decent. It was more for parties, but
yeah, it wasn't character building.
It wasn't character building. It was character building. It was just for the quick moments. But yeah, but yeah, I have more appreciation of it now. Definitely.
Yeah, I can 100% relate to that, because I also watched it at a younger age. I think I watched it when it first came out, which was 2013. So yeah, like 23, and you know, you're a very different person when you're 23 than you are when you're 35. That's for sure. And your priorities sort of change a little bit. And I'm the same as you. I kind of watched it and thought there's a bit of a deeper message here, and it makes you be very retrospective of the things that you've done and the things that you could have done and the things that you could do in the future, I guess. But one thing that stood out to me, just sort of on a less sort of metaphorical, deeper meaning kind of level of this film, was actually like a really beautifully shot movie. Like, that's the first thing that I noticed straight away, was that it's absolutely beautiful in terms of its cinematography. I know lots of people, when I sort of talked about this on our social medias, said that it made them want to visit Iceland and Greenland, which is countries that you're like not even on your radar to travel to. But the scenery in this movie was just top tier.
Phenomenal. Yeah, and that's it. Like, you see, no, I think like it must have been on purpose, because you see whenever he's sort of at home, everything's sort of like the same and bland, because it's always just him at his house, or it's him at the office, and it's just four walls. Besides, like, the life pictures, which show these beautiful places, everything else is just bare bones. And as the movie progresses, and every time he goes back to the office, it's because it's all getting torn down. Everything's getting taken off the walls. It's getting more bare bones, and more just a depressing, just four walls. And then every time he steps out of the office and steps into something, even when he's going on for a walk with Kristen Wiig's character Cheryl, you see they go to the park and everything, and you can see that like the more beauty around the place, there's more color. But yeah, every time it's at home or its office, it's more dull.
Yeah.
And then, like as the movie progresses, even his house starts getting a bit more colorful when his mum and that moves in with him, and and there's more people around him, and everything. He's not just by himself. It's a lot more colorful, and yeah, when he goes overseas and all the beautiful places, and it's all colorful. So I think it's a message about, we all have that jury 9 to 5, but sometimes you need to really step out of that to see the beauty and everything like that. So
Yeah, and the brightness that the world has to offer. I agree, because the cinematography definitely tells a story. As you said, the blues and the greys, that's the color palette in the office all the time. The Life magazine's completely beautifully colored. The other thing that's really beautifully colored is his dream sequences, his imagination sort of sequences. They
yeah,
just get explosive. The color palette completely changes, and it just goes to show the transition from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, where the only brightness he finds and sees is in his imagination. But then as he grows out of his comfort zone and moves into a truer version of himself, and it's not like he's pulling things out that were never there. He always saw that he had the potential to be this kind of person that he wants to be, because it always only just lived in his imagination, but it's becoming more realized and more into the present and into the moments of his everyday. And the color palette and the cinematography mimic that, especially when he starts to go into Iceland and goes on his adventure through there. And I think we'll jump into that a little bit later when we talk about the scene specifically. But there's definitely a turning point in this movie where that starts to shift and change, which I liked. Ben Stiller in this movie.
and he directed it as well
Mm-hmm.
and starred in it.
Yep. So this one actually was bouncing around the studios, so to speak, and they couldn't lock in a director and they couldn't lock in a leading actor, and eventually it fell to Ben Stiller, and he was cast as Walter Mitty before he decided to direct it, and then eventually, once a few other directors sort of fell through, he sort of stepped up to the plate to take on the reins. And before this, he'd done The Cable Guy, he'd done Zoolander and Tropic Thunder. 3 comedy movies, definitely not like this at all. So I think there was a bit of skepticism, but I think he pulled it off. He played a really nuanced character, especially in the way that he expressed himself non-verbally, because I think there was a lot of bombastic ways that you could show him sort of snapping in and out of reality. But it's really just a couple of blinks here and there and a slight head turn that you see, and it fully takes you into and out of his imagination dream sequences, and it's almost portrayed as a real life person, which is not really what I'm used to from Ben Stiller.
Yeah, and I like the dream sequences because it's realistically the only thing that ties it back into the original Walter Mitty comics back from the papers from the New York Times. And because that whole run was of Guy Walter Mitty who go on these massive adventures, but like the Walter Mitty in the New York Times was always very depressing because it always ended his dream sequence right just before the good ending or the climax, or it end up with him just before he dies. So
Oh,
like he never gets fulfillment from these daydreams because he always gets what taken out of it either too soon or from the fact that he's just about to die.
yeah, yeah.
But I do, and they do the same thing in this, which is probably the only tie to Walter, the actual original Walter Mitty. But
Mm.
I do like how they created a whole world for Walter Mitty instead of just like the from the comics when it was just every week there's a different adventure he'd go on in his head. And they created an actual, like Ben Stiller created an actual person with an actual lore with like a world around him. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think Ben Stiller, once he jumped onto this role, he really saw the potential in it, you could say, because he was in an interview with TIFF, which was a press conference that was held in 2013 for this movie. And he said the idea that the most seemingly average person might have a rich inner life and heroic potential really appealed to him. So the archetype of the Walter Mitty is actually something that's really well known through American culture, at least, because it foregrounds this dreamer mentality, usually a guy who's this dreamer that doesn't live in the real world. And it's derived as well from those comics that you were talking about, but also there's a literature short story where basically this guy's driving his wife around to run errands. And as he's doing that, he's envisioning himself as like an Air Force pilot and going on these heroic and adventurous things and ordeals in his head, and then retreating back to the everyday. So they took that little seed, Ben Stiller took that little seed and turned it into this larger than life masterpiece that also has a lot of sort of hidden gems and messages in it as well. This is probably one of the first times I also saw Adam Scott on film as well. Adam Scott being Ted Hendricks.
That
The
beard. That
Yeah,
beard.
everybody comments on the beard, man. I
That
don't know if it's
beard.
real. Is it real?
I don't think so. I really don't. Oh, well, it's probably real, but it's probably like they've got the spray on there to make it like really like just like a brick color.
Mm. It's completely darkened, and just puts out his sort of jawline there. And obviously, these two collaborate again when they do Severance in 2020, a very critically acclaimed series. And I think he's the instigator, obviously, because he's that force of tension in this movie that forces Ben Stiller to then go on this sort of journey to find the frame 25, as it were, that Sean sort of sent him and had always trusted him with his work. And I liked the message that this seemingly unassuming man, this average guy, as Ben Stiller sort of said, was his potential was seen not only by himself through his imaginatory experiences, but also from Sean, the photographer, who he always had seen really bringing to life the work that he had shot and taking that care to present the everyday world in such beauty to everybody else through his magazine. So I like that he was seen by another character, and it was that quiet sort of acknowledgement and recognition between those two relationships, between Sean and Walter. That was a really awesome part of the movie for me that I enjoyed too.
Yeah, the fact that Sean and him have never actually met face to face. The only thing they've actually like ties them together is the fact that Walter has been publishing his photographs for what was it, like the 9 years or the 10 years or something, or however long it was.
Yeah.
And but the fact that Sean could just see the end product and be like, wow, it's a guy who like sees things like differently to everyone else. And that's my guy. Just how he goes on this big adventure, and at the end, like there was never really any need to because of what happens. And
I sort of liked that, and it brings us back to our sort of MVT of this movie as well, because the fact that he had to go around the world to try and find frame 25 is a big and massive metaphor for the fact that he didn't need to go on these massive adventures to be this version of himself. He always had it in him to start with, just like he always had frame 25 in his wallet to start with. That's the tying key for it all together, which I loved perfectly. But on a first viewing, when I watched that at 23, I was like, what a pointless experience. Why the heck did he go on that? It's like, check your wallet, dude. Come on. Like, completely went over my head.
Because when I get a new wallet, like I always have a look at all the pockets and maybe
You got to.
Got to. And and then if you had to put anything, but the thing is, I think that's the other thing. You see, he doesn't actually put the only thing he puts in his wallet is in the big pocket. I think he puts some money or something in.
Yeah, cash. I think.
Cash.
Yeah,
that's the only thing. Like he doesn't have anything else. He has no other. Like he doesn't have a coffee card or anything else to put in that wallet for him to actually look through that wallet with and I think that's another showing of like how at that time how like boring and dull his life was. He had nothing to transfer from one wallet to another.
Yeah, that's very true as well. So I think that wallet and the quote on it as well from Life magazine is really sort of poignant for the story as well, because it's almost like that through line that occurs. Let's jump into what our most valuable takeaway of this movie is. So for me, the most valuable takeaway of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty was that sometimes your fullest self isn't found in fantasy, but uncovered through experience. And that Walter's journey reminds us that we don't need to be someone that's extraordinary. We only need to let go of fear and live boldly as we already are. So as we were talking about before, the fact that he began as someone that people really overlooked, and he knew that he could be more through his imagination sequences there, but he sort of had that belief as well that he was a little bit unworthy. Did you get that sort of impression that he didn't think very highly of himself or didn't have much self-esteem, Brash?
Oh, 100%. Like how he'd and I honestly I saw a lot I still see a lot of Walter in me as well. like just always thinking like that I'm going to like I'm not good enough or I'm going to annoy people with my attempts of friendship or like it's always just that like that. It's always sad to see because you see it and you're like, oh man, that's really sad. Then you're like,
Wait a
oh
minute.
shit, I do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like in how he like sees Kristen Wiig's character Cheryl at like a distance, and he's just sort of like wishing he like in his fantasy he's this big macho hero man who saves the day and a dog as well from a burning building that has three legs. Like he just has to because that's the kind of person he thinks that they want.
Yeah.
They want some big, showy, flashy hero can do anything, and then in reality, they just want a guy, man.
Yep.
They just want a dude.
Hmm.
You just gonna be, and he doesn't need to be so self conscious. Like
Yeah.
he is enough.
Absolutely. And I think he always had that little inkling that he was enough, but I feel like those imagination sequences, as you said, they sort of play into some insecurities, but it also reveals a lot of what he desires in terms of who he would like to outwardly portray. And yes, it's like a larger than life version of that, but really if you break it down, there's sort of those three symbolizing characteristics that are in a lot of his fantasies to start with. There's the connection that he's always seeking, which is through Cheryl. Every time Cheryl appears in one of his imagination sequences, he sees her as this attainable and somebody he wants to be close to form like connection. That's number one. And number two is purpose. So that's symbolized through his acts of heroism, whether it's him, climbing up all the mountains to try and be with her or jumping through the building to save his dog from the burning space. He wants that sort of purpose, but he also wants that recognition through those acts of service. So that's number three. He's always seeking through those dream sequences, those three things: connection, purpose, and recognition.
And you see it change after a while because at the very start because we get a fair few of those sequences at the start. But
Yeah.
then when he starts going on that adventure, the next time Cheryl's in one of his imaginations, it's he when he jumps on that helicopter. But it wasn't him being all heroic or anything. It was just Cheryl cheering him on with a song that they both really liked,
Yeah.
which was it Rocket Man?
No, Ground
No,
Control to
Ground
Major
Control,
Tom.
Major Tom.
Yeah,
That's
by
right. Yeah.
David Bowie. Great song. But yeah, I completely agree. And it's even externalized when he's talking to Patton Oswalt, who plays the eHarmony guy. And love that guy too.
Yeah.
But he's got some good lines. But I loved it when he was just like, "You've got nothing here under like places you've been or things you've done." And he goes, "I haven't really done or seen anything." And then as that list on his eHarmony profile expands, his imaginatory sequences decrease. And he even asks him, Patton Oswalt's character even asks him, he's just like, how's that daydreaming sort of going? And he goes, a lot less lately. So I think that's very true to point out that he starts off wanting those three things: connection, purpose, recognition. But as he goes further along, he kind of becomes more comfortable with himself and the things that he's doing, outwardly expressing those traits. And it's less of a dream and more of a reality, but it always resided inside of him to start with you. But there's this thing called self actualization, which is realizing one's full potential. And it comes from engagement, growth, risk, and authenticity, which is the four things that Walter definitely does through this story. And he eventually, we'll say, becomes himself, but he was always himself to start with. And we sort of talk about this a little bit in schools because one thing that you learn about is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's a needs system where the things at the tippy top of this pyramid are things that you need to be self-actualized, and the things at the bottom of the pyramid are things that you need for survival. So an example is like food, water, shelter. Those are the things you need for survival. And if you have them, you can start to build your self-actualization. But if you don't have those things, that's what you need to fix in order to feel like your needs are met, basically. So in the start of this movie, Walter Mitty obviously has those things enabling him to survive, but he's not thriving. So he's surviving, but he's not thriving. And he begins to live with intention a little bit more. And that's when he starts to do those things where he's engaging in the real world. He's taking risks by jumping out of helicopters. I'm not recommending our viewers and listeners do that to find who you really are, but
So
in the
if you do it safely and with professionals.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that was definitely just a big metaphor for, jumping out of your comfortability and, embracing that authenticity that makes you who you are. And that's sort of the most valuable takeaway that I kind of got from Walter Mitty. And it starts by pursuing purpose over your routine. So I know, as you said before, Brash, we do have our 9 to 5s that we're a slave to. But what's that sort of one thing that you could do that's purposeful to you, that's something that you love, something that you're sort of passionate about, and aligning your inner and your outer self, because we all have that idea of who we are and who we want to present on the inside, but is that who we're presenting on the outside? And for me personally, I'm like trying to get better at that, because it's definitely something that I've sort of struggled with as well, just like Walter Mitty has, is trying to bring the inside me to the outer world. And the more I do it, the more I realize that it's kind of okay, but I'm definitely not all the way there yet.
Oh yeah, 100. Like, I kind of blame, for me anyway. I blame my teenage years
Yep,
and
yep.
school. Like, we were always trying to, or I know for me at least, always trying to like join in and be a part of the bigger group. As much as, and I don't think anyone in that bigger group actually really knew who they were. We were all just trying to pretend to be something we weren't, to
Yeah.
try and pretend to fit in. And then as soon as like high school's over, it's like, what was the point?
Yeah, it didn't even really matter. That's that
Didn't matter.
recognition as
It
well.
didn't. Yeah, it didn't matter at all. And then, but now I think because of that, it sort of left, like it sort of ingrains it in you a little bit. And
Mm.
because I don't think it was until like I was 24, 25, when, no, maybe like 25, 26, when I started, like when I really was like, I don't like doing any of the things I was doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's just not who I am. Like, that's when I started like playing D&D again, um
And then we met. Woo!
and yeah, we met, and I stopped drinking, and like I stopped drinking as much as I used to, because I used to think that was like, because I was a teenager, that's all we do. We Friday night and we get on the piss, go
Oh,
out,
yeah.
and like I did that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then sleep off Sunday night and hope that wasn't too bad on Monday for work. Yeah, I think as I've gotten older, I've started sort of shedding off of the whole persona that I was pretending to be, and started being more comfortable in who I am. And unfortunately, it did take a lot longer than I hoping for. And if any young people take anything out of this episode, is like, high school is great. High school, you meet some friends for life, but don't let high school define you.
Yeah.
Like, it's high school's going to end. You're going to become an adult, and everything that happens in high school, besides what you learn, is not going to matter.
I like
So,
that. I think that's really good. And it sort of falls into some of the themes of this movie too, where you're looking at demonstrating action and overcoming fear. So his moment is obviously jumping out of the helicopter, but for us, our moment might be, stopping some habits that we used to have that don't serve us anymore. Like, we don't want to do X, Y, and Z because we want to change our life and make our color palette go from blues and grays to beautiful colors like Walter Mitty's was. But I like at the end of this movie how he'd always sought that recognition. And I think that's that we can relate that back to teenage life as well. You're always seeking that recognition. You want to fit in. You want to be part of the group and part of the collective. And he's seeking connection as well through Cheryl. But I think through this, at the very end of it, Walter Mitty does get that recognition because Sean does actually put him on the last cover of Life magazine. But it's not really about fame at that point for me, for Walter, because and his reaction to that is absolutely perfectly exemplified by the fact that he's okay with being himself now. It's understated. There's like a quiet acknowledgement. There's a worthiness that sits within him. And even though it's externally validated through that magazine cover, that isn't really what sort of matters to him anymore, because at the end of the movie, it doesn't focus on the fact that he is now on the cover of this Life magazine and he's immortalized forever in a photograph. What we focus on is the colorful, beautiful palette of him walking down the street with Cheryl, sharing a beautiful human connection that's completely natural. The conversation isn't grandiose. It's just a simple sort of human interaction at the end of it, talking about the things that they enjoy. And eventually they agree to meet each other again, and the relationship and the connection flourishes there. So it's this movie that's full of all of these brilliant and amazing and big, impactful adventure pieces. But at the core of it, there's also the small human interaction moments that really sort of matter, that make Walter come out of his shell a little bit and realize his potential through the journey that he went on. but also through realizing the things that are inside him are good enough to show people outside as well.
Yeah, I love that because I forgot about that until I watched it. This last time that the final photo was him, I forgot all about that. You know, it's like one of
Yeah.
the most poignant parts. But when I watched it, I was young and didn't give a shit. But
I think that says a lot about the movie, though, is the fact that it was so understated that it wasn't really the point of the movie that he was the very end picture on it.
yeah,
The point of the movie was that he overcame that sense of needing external recognition being on the front of the cover, that it didn't really matter to him anymore. And the fact that it didn't matter to you as an audience member was like, well, that's just
yeah,
art meeting real life.
yeah.
So
But I think though it was a little bit more poignant this time around than it was when I first watched it when I was younger. Because this time I saw it and like because the photo is him sitting on steps looking at two different photos. Or was he having lunch? No, he was looking at the photos.
yeah,
Wasn't
he was looking through the
the piece,
spectacles that he
yeah,
sort of
and looking at photos, and like, and it just shows that like the last episode of Time Magazine, which every cover of Time Magazine is something large and or something beautiful, something thing, and then the very final thing is this is what like all those things. This is what life is.
yeah, the quintessence of
It's just
life.
us. It's just us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really awesome. All right, let's get into some of our favorite scenes. All right, so I want to start off with the first daydream sequence. When we looked at that, we already
Yeah.
sort of talked a little bit about it, but we're introduced to this scene where Walter's sort of sitting in the middle of the train station and he's very isolated through medium and wide shots. And you can see that there's not very many people around him and the connections that he's having really aren't there. And the fact that he's so small and positioned so small around all these really big buildings and structures just shows how much of a small piece of the machine he is. And when he's sort of traveling in the train and to work, you can see him like moving with the herds of people. So it shows that he's not really an individual in this space. He's moving through the crowds. He's trying to get through the day. The palette is cool and desaturated and it's grays and blues as we talked about before, but then jumps into this daydreaming sequence where he literally does a double flip off the bridge, enters this burning building that is completely engulfed in flames, and then comes out the back of it a real hero. And that was like the first instance where I saw Ben Stiller acting like the Ben Stiller I see in the movies. And he comes out and he's got this completely silly looking robotic leg for the dog. And you notice in that small instance that he's obviously sort of wanting these sort of connections and he's wanting that recognition. And he's also a bit of a dreamer as well. But I just really liked how his daydreams are not rooted in selfish fantasies here. That it's like a longing to be valued. It also sort of, it was a bit out of left field for me because I didn't know what to expect when I watched this
Yeah.
movie, whether it was a comedy, whether it was a drama, I don't know. So when I was watching this and I saw this lonely guy sitting at the train station and snapped into that dream sequence, I was like, oh, what's this? What's happening here? So yeah, and there was a few of those going through the movie Brash, those dream sequences as well.
Yeah, like I really enjoyed the Stretch Armstrong dream sequence. That was probably my favorite dream sequence
Is
because
that
I
the one
like
where he's fighting in the elevator?
fighting in the
Yeah.
elevator with Adam Scott's character, and
Yep.
they're fighting over the Stretch Armstrong. And it ends up spilling out into the streets, but they're like earthbender rock sliding across like the bitumen,
Yeah.
and it's just huge, like this huge production, and I like that to me, like watching that scene, but like, and it was just how much he wanted to stick up for himself because he always just takes it, and
Yep.
this was his dream of him being able to stand up to the bigger boss, the bigger man, and try and win, but sort of doesn't. But
Yeah.
that was probably my favorite dream sequence of this movie.
Yeah. I really liked when they'd snap into and out of the dream sequences because it would always have this soundtrack swell when he got into the dream sequence and it'd be cinematic because obviously it's imaginatory. But then there would also be like it almost fades to near silence. It's almost like a distortion and a fade, and it's a sharp contrast between his imagination and the real world. And then obviously coupled with Ben Stiller's subtle reaction, like the snap back
Yeah,
into the reality and the slow blink is like, who hasn't done that before?
yeah,
But yeah, I just love how like that's a really artful way to portray that kind of transition, because otherwise I think it would be a little bit more sort of confusing for us to watch. But in the end, he sort of reclaims his imagination as part of action. But to go back to what you were saying about Adam Scott and how he always sees himself against him as almost like a victim against an antagonist. They do that as well by they sort of lower the camera angles slightly when they're looking at him as well to show the distortion of power. And I just think that every single time, and the workplace framing also, it's just putting him in this space where he's completely in this social and emotional detachment, but he's also having a lot of sort of antagonistic internalized invisibility towards his boss.
Yeah, and he's always
And
alone.
yeah,
He's always
exactly.
alone, and the boss Adam Scott has always got those two other guys on each side of him, sort of
Mm-hmm.
like overshadowing Walter. And the first time he has a daydream about fighting back, it's just him and Adam in the elevator alone.
Yeah.
Like Adam doesn't have his backup.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really good to note as well. And also noting the fact that he's also alone. He has to travel into the underbelly of this Life magazine business to get to his office. He goes down all the levels. He goes through like the internal structure of the building, and he's literally alone in a dank, darkened, deep space. So that's sort of metaphorical for him as a person too. That's how far removed he is from society. And as he gets himself out of there, he starts to live his real life, and the color palette begins to change as well. But he definitely has that detachment there, doesn't he?
Yeah, and going on to how from his daydreams, how he's all grandiose, like how he is all grandiose. You see that moment when he's in the park with Cheryl and her son, and he shows Cheryl's son how to do a kickflip
Yeah,
because he used to skateboard and he used to be really good at like skateboarding, but doesn't feel that that's he sort of pushes it aside because it doesn't feel that's like a necessary life skill to make him cool or anything like
yeah,
that. And you see him in the background while Cheryl's on the phone, just doing all these cool tricks on this
yep,
board, and you're like, and like no one else besides the kid is there to see it. And then Cheryl gets the phone, turns around, and that's when he's finished with all these tricks. And so Cheryl
hmm
doesn't see it either. And you sort of like, that's cool as,
yeah,
but you do it when no one's watching and no one actually sees how cool it is.
yeah. That's perfect because it shows that how overlooked he feels, but
Yeah,
also how undervalued he feels his skills are, and that sense of unworthiness, and just how he really shows who he is on and who he feels as a person on the inside, because he doesn't feel like that massive and awesome trick is worth sharing with anybody. And I loved that because when they shot it, they've obviously got Cheryl in the foreground completing
yeah,
up all the focus, and in the background Ben Stiller's doing kickflips and stuff in a sort of fuzzy outline,
yeah,
and that's drawing all our focus, but we can't sharply see it. So we can see that it's there, it's in him, but it's not fully obvious to us, and it's also not obvious to him that it's really, really cool. And it goes back to that quote that Sean says at the end of the movie where he says, "Beautiful things don't ask for attention."
yeah,
And that's Ben Stiller or Walter Mitty in this moment doing a beautiful thing, asking for no attention for it at all. So it's that playback too, which is really awesome. I love that scene. That's a really good pullout. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. That's probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. Besides the huge Iceland Greenland trip,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
I
whole
th-
thing. But mainly
oh,
the skateboarding down that road. That's
absolutely. Let's jump into that scene now because that's pretty symbolic as well. There's a scene that comes before that we'll sort of talk about as well with the helicopter jump, which that's his first sort of step into realizing, I've got to do things outside. I've got to step out of my comfort zone. I've got to be who I am on the inside. And he climbs into the helicopter and jumps out and does something completely reckless and unnatural to him. But as he's skateboarding down the slopes of Iceland, it is just like he's narrowly escaping volcanic eruptions in this part. He's using his longboarding skills. It's literally a pure moment of presence. Like he's in the moment to the point where Ben Stiller once again is depicted as a really tiny guy because they use a lot of long shots and you see the beautiful landscape of Iceland. But instead of it sort of pinpointing and highlighting his isolation to society, it's almost like him succumbing to the fact that he is just a small part in the big game of life in this sort of moment. And he is so small in terms of the landscape around him, but he almost sort of succumbs to it because there's that shot of him going down, arms open, sunlight behind him sort of shining, and that understated music playing as he's going down as well that shows he is completely pure in this moment. It's joy and self-liberation, and he's just sort of impressed by the fact that he's not daydreaming, And that's the like he's doing these brilliant things, but he's actually not daydreaming this time, and he's experiencing freedom for the first time. And it's not about achieving that greatness, but he sort of feels alive in that moment. So I think that was one of the most beautiful scenes in the movie.
Him jumping out of the helicopter on the wrong side is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's just a dolphin, and then it's to be a shark. It's like,
Not
oh
a
no, that's a
dolphin.
shark.
Yep.
But yeah, like I think Ben Stiller did a really good job of this. When he's in that skateboard scene, just to look at his face. When you look at his face, when he's got his arms, like when he's like down and he's just zooming, you just see look at his face, and it just looks like he's at peace almost.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it's just like just absolute freedom. He puts his arms out and he's just going with
Take me,
emotions.
Lord. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and I like that because like that's one of my like my second favorite scene was him on a skateboard going down that windy road, and just how, and like even me watching it, I was just like, like that's probably not something that I want to do necessarily, but it's something I want to feel.
Yes, yeah, and that's illustrated perfectly, I think, because when we're looking at this, if we look at the symbolism of it, the road is like winding through all these different obstacles, and that represents obviously Walter's path and the life that he's on right now, and life of anybody. It's a winding path full of things that we don't know. He doesn't know what's coming up around the bend. There's no shortcuts. There's no detours, but he's moving forward. And that's what we all want to do. We all want to sort of move forward. We don't want to get stalled in this moment. He's got his arms outstretched, which can be like a symbol of like rebirth and freedom, vulnerability without fear as well, because he seemed at peace, as we said, like the look on his face. He's just vulnerable to whatever is coming around the corner, but he's present in that moment. And the landscapes around him, the real landscapes, not the actual imaginary landscapes, is like authenticity. And he's going through this transformation that isn't a fantasy, but it's earned and it's lived and it's real. And it's just effortless in that moment. And I think that there's this introspective moment of triumph for him, because the song that's playing is called Far Away, and the lyrics in it, so it says, "Step outside, won't you lend me your wings?" And it echoes that emotional liftoff that Walter goes through when he's in that moment, and he really just wants to sort of be who he is on the inside, outside again. So yeah, I agree. I think that it's really, again, one of those moments where Sean O'Connell's line, "Beautiful things don't ask for attention," it's one of the most beautiful shots in the whole movie, and no one's around to see it.
Yeah, he's
But
just
it's worthy for
completely by
him.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah, he captures in that moment, and he doesn't boast about it. Like he doesn't. Later on, I would tell everybody if that was me, and I did that successfully. And that might say a little bit about me, but like Walter goes through that whole thing, skateboards down one of the longest, windiest roads in the whole entire world, escapes a volcano. Yes, he tells Patton Oswalt he's the eHarmony guy.
Just the harmony guy.
Yeah.
That's all.
But he doesn't do it as a brag. He almost does, oh, yeah, put that on there. Okay.
Yeah,
actually, do you want to just shut that down? Like later he says, do you want to just shut down the eHarmony page?
Yeah,
But yeah, he just lives it. He embodies it.
Yeah, because
it's
not even him bragging about it. It's because Patton Oswalt is like, oh, have you been anywhere else? Have you been anywhere lately? He's like, well, actually,
yeah, he was asked
I've,
about it.
I've been here, and he's like, what? And but he says it like he's saying it so nonchalantly, like, yeah, I've been here, but, and I think it's the same with like his doesn't want to, he wants to overshadow himself.
Yeah.
So he's talking on his thing. So he's saying it's like not a big deal. He's like, oh, I just did this. The eHarmony guy, Oswald's like, that's incredible. That's amazing. And it's what's sort of like, it's just something I've done.
It's just something I've done. Yeah. One fact I learnt about those scenes in particular that we've talked about, jumping out of the helicopter into the sea, and also this skateboarding sequence, is Ben Stiller did a lot of interviews when he was promoting this through film festivals. And one of the things that everybody asked him was, did he really do that? And he did. Like, he didn't use any sort of stunt doubles there. He tried to make it as authentic as possible, and he wanted to go through as much of it as possible, because it does build that intimacy and connection with the viewer when you know that the actor is actually, or the character is actually doing the things that they're doing on screen for real. And I think that really plays into Walter's journey as well, because it's actually him performing those sort of moments. But if we jump back to the copter scene at this moment as well, as we said, very funny sort of jumping out of the wrong side of it. But I think that's also a metaphor for when you do take that leap, or you do stop that habit, if we're going to go small scale, or you take this step forward for the day. And, it can, for some people, that is the achievement. It's taking a step forward in the right direction for the day. You know, that jump out of the helicopter can feel like the stormy waves that are crashing below for him. Like, it's not a calm sea. It is a tumultuous, screaming, wave-ridden, shark-filled ocean that is probably freezing. That was my first thought when I watched it. That's got to be cold.
That'd be super cold.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
And
he takes a step out the wrong side of the helicopter.
Mhm.
So, and it's like, take that step. Like, it may not be the right step, but eventually he got around to the right. He got to the right place.
That's such a good point too, because yeah, not every step you take is going to be in the right direction, but you don't know that until you take it.
Mm.
So I think that's an awesome message that this movie shows
then-
you as well.
And then it proceeds to him on the skateboard, just progressing forward, trying to get to where he needs to get to. And I think like the point you made before, like it's about moving forward. Even if you do take the wrong step, or if you do make a decision and it's not the correct one, just keep moving forward and just keep trying. Like, the worst thing you do is give up, which at one point he sort of does in the movie. After this, after he feels like he's gotten to the point where he can't go any further, and then it takes, I think it's his mother. He's talking to his mother and then seeing the edge of the piano and the photo to be like, wait, and then
And that's another thing we can look at too. Yeah, exactly. Getting back on track. And sometimes it does take that support network, those trusted friends and family members that you need to sort of point you in the right direction and give you assistance to get through that next step to become, you know, your true self through that self-actualization, because it is a journey. And as he's going on it, you know, you look at that moment of him jumping out of the helicopter and it's very courageous, but, you know, it's that old adage they say that courage isn't doing something with an absence of fear. It's being afraid and doing it in spite of it as well. So he didn't need to be perfect in that moment. He just needed to be willing to do it. And he was. And as he did that, he didn't get his answer straight away as he jumped out of the helicopter. It led him to the next thing. So that's something to keep in mind as well, as sometimes it's not always about the step you're taking to get you to the answer that you want right now. Sometimes it's the small step in the right direction that will bring you to the big goal at the end as it sits as well.
And it wasn't, and with his mistake of jumping off the wrong side, he lost the parts for the radio. In losing the parts for radio, he couldn't just get onto the boat and then contact Sean.
Yep.
So he had to
which sort of made his journey harder too.
Yeah, which had to keep continuing his journey. Which, like, at the time, he's probably like, oh, now it's just going. Now I have to do more things. But then at the end of it, coming out of it at the end, he grew more, experienced more, and learned more along the way than if it was something as easy as jumping into a boat, getting off a boat, fixing a radio, calling Sean, saying, "Hey, where's the thing?" And he's saying, "Oh, it's
and flying over there."
Done. Like, yeah.
It's almost that old saying that they say where, you know, mistakes help us to grow, but also mistakes sometimes cause suffering. And through suffering, you also grow and build character too. And that's what happens to Walter as well. He makes that mistake. He beats himself up about it, but then he goes forward and tries to fix it again with the fishermen on the boats there. He sort of talks to them and moves forward to his next step. But if he didn't lose those parts to the radiator, or to the radio, sorry, which can happen, like if you're going through something new, you're not going to get it right the first time. If you're going through that and you make those mistakes and you don't sort of continue on, he would never have had those experiences in Iceland that really made him sort of self-actualize and really believe in the true self that he could be as he's going down this massive sort of skateboarding sequence. So I think that was an important part of the journey. And really, that was the pivotal part of the movie for me. That's where it sort of transitioned. That's where the imagination sort of moved a little bit into the lesser, as opposed to being foregrounded as something that he did all the time.
Yeah.
But I think with this, when we're looking at Walter, there's hints throughout the movie that he's a character that has sort of gone through a little bit. Like his dad's not around anymore. He's obviously got these sort of photos of him when he was a youngster where he had like a mohawk, and the theme of Papa John's is through the movie where he had to get a job and then step up into the real world and sort of support and provide for his family at that point as well. He's very close to his mum and his sister. So he's delivered to us as a real sort of person who goes through real struggles. And that's what I think these moments are really powerful for us, because we see an ordinary guy doing these amazing things. But I think it also does a good job of balancing the fact that these amazing and big things might look awesome on the screen, but for us in our everyday life, it might just be, as we said, taking that next step forward. So I think that it does a beautiful job throughout. But I want to talk now, Brash, about my favorite scene in the movie, which is when he's climbing the Himalayas and he meets Sean O'Connell.
That is a beautiful scene.
Yeah. And for me, it's after the longest time, it's an uncertain journey he goes through, oceans, volcanoes, his own insecurities as well. He finds Sean and he's like calmly watching a snow leopard through his camera, like not knowing anything about what's going on, and he stumbles across him. He doesn't find him on purpose. He sort of stumbles across him. And sometimes the answer happens that way too in real life. Like he's no longer the man from the daydreams at this point, Walter. He is the man that he sort of imagined. This is the climax of the movie for me. Like, I know the movie goes on for a little bit further, but to me, Walter becomes his true self at that moment in that conversation.
Yeah, and the whole, I guess, you see now he's got like, he's sort of got like a beard and it's all got the snow in it, and you see he's like, not so much like age, but like you can see like the weathering on him from like everything he's been through.
He's been on a journey, for sure.
Sean doesn't, because they never really seen each other. Sean's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I'm Walter." He's like, "Oh, Walter," and then
I know you.
Yeah, had this meeting, and then he's like, "I'm here to get the 25th shot." Like, it wasn't in the with the rest of them. He's like, "Oh, I put that in the wallet."
Yeah, he's like, "You're sitting on it."
Yeah,
he's like, "What? What do you mean?"
I put it in your wallet. He's like, "I threw the wallet out." He's like, "Why'd you throw the wallet out, man?" He's like, "Why'd you put it in the wallet?"
Yeah,
and then, like, but then like his but then that's that point then where he's like, "This has all been pointless." But then but then Sean's like, "No, just sit here and take it in, man.
yeah.
Just take in the view, take in the scenery." And then Sean sees the people playing soccer. And he's going to play soccer. We're going to be short if you don't.
Yeah, we'll be short if you don't. Yeah.
And then he just goes down and plays soccer, and they just have a good time. And then, like, I think after that, that's when he's like, "Yeah, it may have been pointless, but it was fun."
Yeah, but after that, I think he does grow into that self-actualized version of himself. He becomes his true self because he's no longer fantasizing, and he realizes that he's enough to the point where, he previously fantasized about beating the shit out of his boss, but now he goes in and has, a verbal conversation, expresses his feelings in a healthy way, and then walks out and leaves. I'll jump back to the Himalayan scene in a moment, but just while I'm on it, I think that ending scene with Adam Scott, where he actually delivers him photograph number 25, and Adam Scott decides to put that on the page, he could have done anything with that. And Walter doesn't check up on him or make sure or check the frame itself to see that he actually puts the right one on. So I think it's a moment of growth from Ted Hendricks too, where he hears from Walter and his journey, sees the inspirational things that he's sort of done, and believes in him enough to actually go and then put him on the cover. I just wanted to give a little bit of a moment there for Adam Scott and Ted Hendricks for his small growth. But back to the Himalayan scene, the most pivotal part for me is that moment and that scene is silent. Like there's no burst of emotion. There's stillness. It's almost like a deep internal realignment for Walter. And I love the fact that when Sean finds out that he threw the wallet out, Sean communicates his feelings very openly and honestly with him. He goes, "Well, that hurt my feelings." Well, that hurts my feelings. And, that's just, I love the way that those two sort of interact, having never met, but there's obviously a respect there because Sean sees Walter for who he could be and for who he is now. And Walter realizing it in this moment is perfect. But there's these wide establishing shots to show the vast scenery. So once again, they're small in the environment, which means, they're standing in the presence of mountains, which is a metaphor for like the inner climb that he's going through. On the way up there, he wanted to cancel his eHarmony profile as well. He's like, just shut it off. I don't need it anymore. The camera's framed in this sort of observational, respectful, quiet way, and it allows the audience to sit with the characters in this moment. I think it's like, I don't know, 8 to 12 minutes, but it doesn't feel that way. And you're completely invested. And, Sean's face is also always partially obscured by the camera in this. And then, in that moment, he sort of moves away from it, which is a visual metaphor for choosing presence over performance, because he sort of sits there and he embraces Walter's presence and he embraces the presence of the ghost cat that eventually does come along. And he lives in that moment, the truth of the moment, which is exactly what Walter did earlier on the hill, skateboarding. But then Sean Penn, who plays Sean O'Connell in this, delivers probably one of the most beautiful lines in this movie, and it's shown across social media all the time because it is such a powerful sort of moment. And I think it's very poignant as well for people that are using social media a lot these days. But he says sometimes, if I see something that I like, sometimes I don't take the shot. If I like a moment, I don't like to have the distraction of a camera. I just want to stay in it.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful, and it's so beautiful the way that it was delivered. Kudos to Sean Penn. He had a really small part in this, but it was a pivotal small role.
Yeah, and Walter's growth, like you said at the end, how he sort of makes Ted Hendricks sort of makes him think about what he's doing when he asked him, like, do you even know what the motto of life is?
Yeah.
And then he's like, life, I'm loving it. He's like,
Yeah.
no, that's McDonald's.
Yeah. Just do it.
He's like, he's how he's telling, like, you come to these places and you push people out. Like you don't know how hard all these people really worked
Yeah.
to create this, to build the magazine, and like they believe in the motto. That's why we work here. And he's like, I know you have to do what you have to do, but maybe next time, don't be such a dick.
Yeah.
Like, and then he's like, yeah, then he does this line that Ted gives him, and like, put that on a plaque at your next job.
Yeah. I love the fact that, he didn't have to go and beat him up to sort of put him in his place, but he also spread that message. And I think that's a good one too. And I think this is what Sean embodies in the movie, is that Sean quietly recognizes the beauty in others and what others should feel worthy about, because he does that for Walter. And I think that it's really important to know that, for Walter's job, he catalogs and preserves these moments that are really revolutionary. And sometimes moments don't have to be captured to be meaningful or revolutionary. They need to be felt. And I think Sean knows that pivotally, but he also knows the importance of connecting with people and making sure that you're kind to others, for example, and you show them, or you try to show them, or try to help them believe in the worthiness that's sort of sitting inside them. Or at least, tell somebody that, you no longer need to be spectacular or awesome to be recognized as great. But this is also in this scene where the scene of, or the line of beautiful things don't ask for attention. And to get a bit personal here, that's also one of the main reasons why I really love my partner Kalia, because she is a really sort of beautiful person, but she has almost zero social media presence. She lives her life in the day to day. She's really connected to her family, and she takes happiness in those small moments in life. And that connected to me in this moment of this movie, because as much as it's sort of not really nice to compare your partner to a shadow snow leopard, but I think in this moment when the quote was made, it sort of really connected me to that in terms of her. So,
Well, I mean,
yeah, I love that.
Sean, which that is beautiful, by the way, but
Thank you.
Sean also does the same thing. Because when Walter asks him, like when he says he's thrown the wallet out, he's like, "Well, what was it?" And Sean's just like, "Let's just call it the Shadow Cat."
Yeah. Let's just call it a ghost cat.
A ghost cat, yeah, because I like you made the comparison before of like Walter Mitty to being the ghost cat. Sean makes the same comparison to him to the ghost cat and Walter. So
Yeah, I love that. But I think that the most important thing for this is, like, when he was climbing the mountain wasn't like a physical obstacle. It was him overcoming his own self-doubt. And, we're met with another shot when they're finished of him just enjoying the moment once again, playing soccer with some natives and Sean. And it's completely silhouetted, but they're backlit by light. And it really just takes you into the presence of that moment with the slow score. And it's a beautiful scene that sort of shows him just sort of at peace once again. So, I'm a sucker for a really good character development story. And I think this is one that's done really subtly and really, really well. So I think becoming your true self often requires like letting go of your ego, but sort of also it's not always grand and loud, which is what this movie does really, really well. So, all right, let's get into our final takeaways. Hey, Brash. All right, so we're not going to go into really detailed reviews like we kind of used to on the Phantom Portals podcast. If you want to see those, we're going to do them specialty style, and they'll appear like every now and then through our podcast, but most notably on our YouTube, which will be in the show notes below. In this part, we're just really going to talk about our favorite scene, our favorite quote, any sort of nitpicks we have with the movie, and then we're just going to give it a rating out of 5, and we're going to put it on our honor board as well, because we're going to keep the honor board going and post that on our social medias. So, Brash, what was the best scene or favorite scene for yourself?
Oh, there's so many I really, really, really enjoyed. But for me, I think my favorite scene, I'd have to say, when he's showing off his skateboard tricks. Because he's not even doing it for Shell, he's doing it for her son. They have no real connection, but he's willing to be sort of that father figure, willing to try and help out however he can, even if it's as simple as, hey, let me show you how to do a kickflip. And but the fact that it's in the background with the foreground show where it's blurred out and you can barely see it, like that whole, just that picture, I think that scene just, yeah, does it for me, that one.
Yeah, I like that. So that's one of those scenes that show, beautiful things don't ask for attention. But yeah, mine's on a similar vein. Mine's the Himalayas scene when he sees the ghost cat, because of the personal connection I kind of had with that line. Best quote for me is that one, beautiful things don't ask for attention. Did you have a favorite quote that you'd want to share with our listeners?
I really like that quote. Sometimes I don't. It's like a moment for me personally. I don't like to have the distraction of camera. I just want to stay in it. Like that line for me is always going to be like amazing. This one I think is deep and has such a beautiful meaning that everyone should take to heart. And it's, don't cheat on your lady, man, when you live in a country that only has 8 people in it.
Oh, that's true. Oh, I love that movie. You know what? One thing that we didn't mention as well is there's like a call out to the Matrix in this movie, where there's the blue and the red car. Did you see that? Yeah. Yeah. Which is literally like, going into the real world, which is what was pointed in the Matrix there as well. Do you have any nitpicks for this movie? Anything that sort of didn't hit or didn't strike? I've got one, and I reckon it's probably one that's sort of mirrored by a lot of people. When this came out, everybody was a little bit perturbed by the product placement, like
Yeah,
the Papa John's and the Heineken especially, that you can see throughout. Like, it didn't pull me out of it, but if I'm going to pick nits for this one, I think that would probably be it for me. And sometimes some of the moments, they're drawn out a little bit too long in terms of pacing, but on second, third, fourth watch, you realize that that's sort of the point. It's like staying in the moment and taking in the sort of beauty of some of the scenery and the situations that you're in. So that was, if I'm going to nitpick something, that's it for me.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think I
No notes?
really. I don't think I really. I mean, no, it's like nothing. I mean, like all the dream sequences are cool. Like the fight scene, like my favorite one.
Yeah.
I think that one's probably a little bit too long.
Yep.
But other than that, nothing I would say, nothing that I would say that I'd take out to make it better.
Very good. Okay, so that means we're going to give it a rating out of 5. For me, I've given it 4.5 out of 5. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'll have to say, I was going to give it a 4, but now I'm saying that I don't have any notes for it. I'm like, that might be closer to 4.5.
Mm.
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to say 4.5, I reckon. I love this
All
movie.
right.
I reckon it's a beautiful movie.
So that means it gives us an average of 4.5 from both hosts. So that means this one sits at second on our honor board, Brash, sitting behind only the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's at 0.5, and we both sort of agreed. We also have the New Mutants at 4.5. We kind of agreed that this movie's messages are a little bit more impactful for us, like both of us sort of personally. So we put it in the second spot. So there we go. We've got a new top 3. Yeah, happy with that.
So where was Phantom of the Opera now? 4th?
Phantom of the Opera is 5th now.
5th.
Still in top 5.
Yep. Which one's 4th?
The Crow.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, The Crow, of course.
Yep. Yeah. All right, so let's get into our sign-offs. All right, everybody, this is the end of this episode. If you've got thoughts for us on this movie, then you can follow us on social media and join the conversation. We post each week's pick ahead of time, so you can tell us all the features that you loved about the movie or ones that you didn't like so much. We're everywhere at Fandom Portals, so that's Instagram and also on Threads. After we post these episodes, we're also going to post a question for you guys. So obviously, Walter Mitty's transitional sort of moment in this movie was when he sort of jumped out of the helicopter and was skateboarding down the slopes of Iceland there. So what was your Greenland or Iceland moment? What was the moment that sort of changed you, if anything? You can tell us on the social media. We'll put it on our threads. So join our social medias at Fandom Portals there for that. If you're loving the podcast, definitely go and tell a friend about it if you think they'll vibe with it. Nothing grows in the podcast world without your help. So please, word of mouth is awesome for us. And we also have a newsletter. So if you want a newsletter every month, we're only sending one a month. You can join that at www.fandomportalspodcast.com. Next week, we're going to be sinking our teeth into Zombieland from 2009 to explore how value and connection, even a world gone mad, can help us to drop the act and step into who we truly are. That will be the second movie in our run on Becoming Your True Self, which is our themed arc for the movies we're doing right now. So definitely tune into that. It'll be a week from your time of listening to this, or if you're listening to it in the future, it'll be there right now. So go and check it out. Gratitudes, Brash. We're moving these to the end.
Yeah.
I am grateful for late night conversations with Kalia. Having a few of those lately, and it's good to have time when the kids have gone to bed for us to chat. It's good. Watched a movie last night. It was very nice to connect. So that's what I'm grateful for. Time with the wife. What about yourself?
Recently, I think similar to you, but not with wife, with friends. So we went and watched Superman together, and that was so good. I went and watched the new I Know What You Did Last Summer with a friend of mine. That was really good. Last night, I was over at my neighbor's house. We had a barbecue and had some drinks, and just shot the shit. And I think
social calendars flourishing.
yeah. So socially, I've done a lot more in the past month with our trip and everything like that now than I have probably in the last 3 years. Oh no, actually, besides when we used to play D&D.
Yeah.
That used to be
Look at
so
you
awesome.
jumping out of those helicopters into the Icelandic Sea, Brash. Go you.
Yeah. So
Let's
go. Grateful for the people I have in my life right now.
Amazing. All right. Thank you, guys. And we'll see you next week on the Fandom Portals podcast. Keep learning, keep growing, keep loving fandoms. Bye.
See ya.